Okay, there we go. My mic was not working for a second. Worried. Okay. Welcome to the Silksong tier list. We say a version of the Silksong tier list. And this is more of a for fun thing. Take it too seriously. This is my interpretation, like a ranking of Silksong bosses. As you say, Chroma, Grohl, the Great, and Powerful. Their placement might surprise you. Got a whole list of bosses, ranging in how I view them, including some mini bosses. I used a pre-made tier list. We'll get into my actual thoughts on Grohl in a little bit. But for now, guess why don't we begin with the very first boss we come across? And of course being Moss Mother. The Gruz Mother / Vengefly King equivalent from the original. Moss Milk, indeed. Misty. It's fine. It is serviceable enough as a punching bag. It's the first enemy that actually fights back, and you might actually struggle with for original OC Do Not Steal. Actually, kind of. Yeah. Because its moveset is legitimately kind of a combination between the Gruz Mother and the Vengefly King. Without him, it is definitely a fight that might catch some newcomers off guard, but for the most part, you're gonna one-shot it. Maybe if you get very reckless and don't heal, you might get caught off guard. But otherwise, it's there to teach you about visual telegraphs. When it's going to do an attack, and looking at your surroundings to know where the attack is coming from. That's really what the Moss Mother is for, and it's fine at that. It doesn't really try to be anything spectacular, it's not going to be anyone's favorite, it's serviceable in what it is. Next is Bellbeast, which, putting her in B for best girl. I think, Chroma, you've said it yourself. Bellbeast is the first actual boss, much like False Knight. And much like False Knight, it is also your introduction to auditory cues. Listening for the different roars to know which attacks it's going to do. Again, looking at your surroundings, figuring out where attacks are coming from. And as you said, it is much better than False Knight, I'd say. Both as a challenge and as an introductory boss. Yeah, it might kick your butt. For new players, this will probably be the first thing that kills you. Outside of maybe some platforming sections, this will be the first thing that actually kills you. And it might do it a couple times. As an introductory boss, it is superior to False Knight in a lot of ways. And I love it for it. And also, she's just very cute. I think I can go back and forth on whether or not I like the Stag or Bellbeast more as fast travel. They both, yeah, and you get to pet them, which is nice. Just the fact that you get to pet the Beast compared to the stag might push it over the edge. Like, they're both good for different reasons. First is the first run of Lace, which I had put it down, like on my notepad, I put it down as A. And I think that's, for the most part, correct. I could definitely see people putting all of the laces in S. I think as a first go-around, Lace is probably the first big wall you'd have to scale. Boost Fast has a built-in parry, teaches you about trajectory as well as certain hit zones. She is the Hornet equivalent of this game. She is very good at what she does. I don't really have that many notes for Round 1 Lace. I think there are... like, maybe you could argue she moves too fast for a first time. But I didn't really have too many problems with Round 1 Lace when I got to her, so... there's not really anything more to say other than a very solid, well-designed boss. So this list has Kragler, which I didn't really write down, because I didn't think of it as... I guess in hindsight, yeah, it's like a mini-boss that you have to overcome. I think Kragler is... it's D tier. Same as Moss Mother. Nothing special. It serves as a wall between you and the Wormways, for the most part. Like, you have to get the dash in order to outrun it. It is the first real enemy that you have to... and first in quotation marks, because I imagine most people met the Starguard first. But not fun to fight. Yeah, it's not fun to fight, and unless you're looking to 100%, it is completely optional. You can, for the most part, just run right through that area to the Wormways and never fight it until Act 3 when you're trying to 100%. Now, arguably, it is better to do it in, like, Act 2, where you can basically just two-shot the thing. Like, it doesn't take that long. But I think to some degree it serves a similar purpose to the Scar Guard. It's there as a skill check. You either go in there, try to fight it, and then realize it's gonna be difficult and run away. Act 3 and Act 2, you could cheese it with bolt vessels. True. You can cheese it in other ways, like with bolt vessels. But I fought it normally. Which, yeah. That is also a point, that you can... it is one of the bosses that you can cheese. I do realize... I kind of misordered things. It is a possibility that you can cheese it. But I guess is what elevates it to D tier compared to, like, F, is that it is completely optional. You have ways of cheesing it. It's like the Scar Guard, where at first it's scary, and then as you move forward in the game, it becomes significantly less so. I guess speaking of the Scar Guard, I think you could argue. Thank you, Chroma. Thank you, Chroma. Speaking of the Scarlet, that also probably can just go in D tier as well. Like, it's more of a mini boss than anything. And it fills the same role as the Crackler. It's basically there to say, you're not ready for this area yet. Come back when you are either more skilled or have the dash. Like, as you have demonstrated, and as other people have demonstrated, you can beat the Scar Guard if you have enough skill before you get the dash. It is significantly easier with the dash. Get good or get dash, basically, yeah. Because you can go underneath him when he jumps, you can parry all of his strikes if you are precise enough with the timing. But otherwise, you will just get walloped until you get the dash. Like, I've seen people get walloped over and over and over again and not give up until eventually they get the dash. They either brute force their way through it or get the dash. The movement timing without the dash is very precise. It's either that or you just like parry everything, which requires a bit of timing. It can be done, but that's not to say it's not difficult. So then move on to fourth chorus, which, so on my notes I put it as B. I think you could argue for A or even S, but I put it as B. This one is the biggest wall from like Act 1, outside of maybe Moorwing. And no, Last Judge. I think you could argue with the Last Judge as well. I think you told me that the music in the fight is very good. Hold on, what did I... Hold on, let me turn it up just slightly. I love all the music. Like, there are definitely better tracks than fourth chorus, but this one is probably one of the better early game ones. Outside of maybe Widow. It's a very intense battle. Like, you can hear melodies from other bosses that will appear later and have come beforehand. But it just goes hard. I think you mentioned Chroma. People thought the fourth chorus was unfair. And I see it, but I don't. I think I mentioned this before. Like, fourth chorus, I think the most unfair thing that fourth chorus can do is spike you into the lava with the ground pound. Basically taking at least 3, at most 4 damage, which can, in some cases, just kill you outright. And that's really about it. Everything else is very well telegraphed, to the point where it is almost entirely upon your timing or your skill level. If you're getting hit by the side swipes, you need to jump and hover either sooner, as soon as you see the claw go back. You were trying to go for damage, and that ended up blowing up in your face because you weren't able to hit hover in time. It is entirely on the timing of the fourth chorus. That is That is, for the most part, on you. The side swipe, just hover in the middle with the airstreams. So the airstreams don't appear until, I think, the last phase of the fight. Which also, by the way, the fact that you can actually cheese the final phase of the fight by hovering up into the air, hitting the explosive rocks, which basically just explode on him and kill him instantly, I think that's a nice touch. I do like how there is a shortcut for this fight. But it's not available to you until you get through most of it. I didn't even do it. I just beat it normally. It is such a fun and interesting fight. Like, has a little bit of cheese on both ends. Like, otherwise, it is a very good mid-boss. He, I think, is definitely deserving of this. Morrowind. It's definitely going to be a C for me. Now, this was another one that I think people didn't know about it until you told me about it, yeah. And I didn't even know about it until I saw someone else do it. Like, I imagine some people might figure it out just by going, once you see the airstreams on the edges during that final phase, you like travel up them, like dodge and attack, and you see the rocks. I think that's how most people figure it out. Either by seeing someone else or like accidentally finding it for yourself. And if you don't detonate the rocks, they actually stay there until burrowing and burrowing. The return of the air signals. This one, I do kind of have a penchant against flying bosses. Partially because of their movement patterns in the air. Like, you know how I struggled with the bird boss, or the bird room. Because I couldn't hit the birds, and I kept bumping into them. Like, sure, perhaps that is more or less an issue with the moveset, where Reaper is just not very good into the birds, the flying enemies, because it's so slow. But food? Okay. I'll try to elaborate a bit while you're gone. Now, Morrowind was another one that I believe Chroma said people said was unfair. And I see that a little bit less in Fourth Chorus, because with Fourth Chorus, they did have that ground pound that could spike you into the lava and basically instantly kill you. Morrowind doesn't really have that. At least not in a way that isn't like, through contact damage. Like, you can... You can basically power through a lot of it, and a lot of it is just memorizing the attack patterns and how to dodge each of them. Like, you will probably get caught off guard by the second phase, but the second you learn how that second phase works and how the attacks work, so this fight becomes a lot easier. You can Zaza on the beat as well. Garamond and Zaza definitely help a lot, being able to block projectile attacks as well as deal additional damage. Definitely make the fight easier. Also, you can not skip the fight. I believe there is a trigger that summons him to a different area. Either that or when you leave, Like when the flea caravan leaves, if you go there again, he returns. But the Moorwing does have a skip feature where you can come back to him later by completing the flea quest. Getting to Greymoor through the flea caravan, it pushes him back. You can upgrade, do some extra stuff, and then come back to fight him. Which I think is a neat little trick. Like, you don't necessarily have to fight him as you are. You can do some extra exploring and then come back to him later when you're a bit better equipped. I still think he's annoying, but I just don't really care for most of the flying enemies. Like, that's more for my personal preference. I think objectively, he's like a fine mid-tier boss. Next is Sister Splinter. There's a lot of stuff more congregating towards the middle. I haven't gotten to most of the S tier stuff yet, or F tier for that matter. But I think Sister Splinter also deserves to be a B tier. I think this was the other one that was kind of a wall for me. It was Moorwing, then Sister Splinter. Like the actual walls. And they took a while to bring down. But typically I got them within about an hour, hour and a half attempts. Sister Splinter's moveset is not anything special. I like the fact that she uses the arena to her advantage, creating walls that you have to break, as well as being able to break the walls herself. The minions are annoying, but can be deflected, can be dealt with, and can be crushed by Sister Splinter's own attacks. I don't think she needed to be nerfed, per se. I understand why people would want to nerf her. Maybe her health was a bit too bulky, like that caused the fight to drag on for too long, but I don't think she necessarily needed to be nerfed. If anything, I don't think there are any bosses that I specifically wanted to be nerfed. Even if they're only slight nerfs. Like contact damage being reduced from 2 to 1. I feel like how Sister Splinter is the first spot that really wants you to use your soap skill. Yeah. Like by condensing the arena using her vines, you can instantly break them with your soap skill. The little brothers, as I call them, can be basically one shot with your soap skill. This is the first one that really I wouldn't say mandates, because you can break the vines, both through her attack as well as just beating them with your needle a couple times. I kind of lost my train of thought. Like, I think it's a very solid boss. A necessary one in it. I think there are ways to min-max them, which I didn't really do. Like, I didn't really min-max my damage against any of the bosses. I mostly just went into it with the idea of learning the moveset and surviving more than just beating them to death. And I think that might have caused me to struggle a bit more with Sister Splinter because she was so bulky and took a long time to kill. Otherwise, it is definitely a fine boss. I do wonder how they're gonna do some of the stuff with the inevitable, like, Pantheon update. Or Pantheon equivalent update. Okay, now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. Savage Beast Fly. The undisputed worst boss in the game, in my opinion. Okay, so this one people struggled with for entirely no reason, myself included, because the boss on its surface feels like it should be earlier than it is. Like, you can technically get to Savage Beast Fly before Sister Splinter, because all it really necessitates is the hood, or the upgraded cloak that allows you to hover. But, and also this is another optional boss. You can always come back to it later after getting a nail at. Yeah, it is entirely because of the minions. That is just it. The minions cluttering the screen, causing you to lose focus on the boss, which causes you to get hit in that small room as well. Like, the minions in a small room that take your focus away from the boss and cause visual clutter is what makes this boss the undisputed worst. Worse than Grohl, worse than any of the other bosses in this game. The thing is, on its own, the boss is just easy. Like I said, it feels like this boss was like for an earlier part of the game, but they used the minions to make it stronger than it actually is, or actually deserves to be. Because its moveset is just go across the room 3 times at different heights, and then ground pound 3 times. There is nothing really interesting or unique about the boss. And without the ads, it would be a worse fight. Well, worse, quote-unquote, fight for it. Because it would probably just be like an F tier. Like, really boring moveset that feels like it should be earlier in the game. Like, it just feels like it's on the same level as Moss Mother. Or like worse. Ever so slightly. But the ads take it from a below average fight for his placement to the worst. Which I guess brings me to the next boss, which is kind of similar. Skull Tyrant. Both of them are D. Without a doubt. No. That's the thing. They are very similar to the Savage Beast Fly. So why the difference? It's mostly just because of the fact that there's no minions. Okay, what is Skull Tyrant's moveset? Dash across the room, jump up and down, dropping rocks, jump up and onto the player. And that's really it. It's like a bullfight. There's nothing really intricate or attack patterns you need to memorize. It's more just about surviving because he has a lot of health. And that's really all is to it. But newer players might get walled. I wouldn't say walled. Like, struggle with this one mostly because you need to be able, like, because he has a shield, basically. He's the first enemy that really has or first boss that really has a shield to block attacks, and that being his head. You can't damage him from above. Like, new players might spend a bit of time, like, attacking the head, not realizing they're not doing damage. When they do, and start going for face, they'll have a much easier time with it. That being said, there's nothing else really interesting about this fight. It's another one that feels like it could be a lot earlier. And I also do like about the ambush on the camp, especially after they hammer home how unprotected Bone Bottom is. There's no real protection other than Chakra and eventually Hornet. Well, Hornet and kind of Chakra. It's like kind of showing that the Bone Bottom is still susceptible to these attacks. He's like any touch. Otherwise, it is just fine. Okay. So you fight Widow before you fight the Conch Flies, so I might as well get that first. Widow is an S tier. It's really the first S tier boss. And I think a lot of people agree that this boss is a very, very cool design, very interesting lore implications. It's a very fast, tight boss that hits hard, moves fast. Will probably be a lot of people's favorite. Similar to like the Mantis Lords. I've heard people describe Hollow Knight bosses by setting them in two different camps. You're either a Mantis Lord or a Gorb. Where Mantis Lords are like fast, tight bosses that move around a lot and hit hard. They're more personal and in your face, and you have more chances to damage them. Whereas Gorb is floating and projectiles. I'll have a harder time hitting them. Arguably may struggle with them more. I love Widow too. It's place number 1. It's like my favorite boss of Act 1. Yeah. Is Widow playing right now? No, Sister Splinter is, ironically. And to some degree, I do love... Oh, this is the one boss that... Well, the first boss that fakes you out with a death. And it legitimately got me for a second. And it got a lot of people the first time around. Like, you get the final blow slowdown. Everything stops for a second. You think you're done. And then she reappears again. I kinda wish more bosses did that than we currently have. But also, if they did it too much, it would probably lose a bit of its specialness. Like, I don't really have any other notes than... Like, I had a Mandela effect, where I thought the bells did 2 damage. But then I saw someone else play against Widow recently, and they only did 1 damage. And I'm pretty sure it was, like, the same time frame as when I played. like within a week of release. It's like, I'm not sure if I just Mandela affected myself into thinking that the bells did 2 damage. So I'm pretty sure they do 2 damage in Bell Beasts, that's for sure. Apparently, in Widow's fight, they only do 1. Okay. Next. He's the Great Conch Flies. I'm not getting very many F tiers, am I? At least not yet. But this one I also put down as D tier. I think it's fine. I think I was able to one-shot this boss pretty quickly. And like, the projectiles were annoying, but nothing that couldn't be dealt with. Because for the most part, they can either be deflected, or you know the trajectory and can kind of dodge to accommodate for it. You know where they're coming from via the telegraphs. And they move relatively slow. Like, you're able to get through this pretty easily, for what it's worth. Really. Obviously, you only kill 1. The other is saved for much later, which I think is a nice little touch. Otherwise, it is relatively fine. The second round of Moss Mothers, F, I will say. They've added a second one, and that's really about it. They increase the health. It's like you need... I'm gonna pretend I didn't read that, Chroma. Increase the health set, you probably need the Needle-In upgrade, which granted, you can only get to this boss after you get the Needle-In, and by that point, you'll have the first Needle upgrade. Like, post-boss, both of the mothers take about the same amount of time. Just now that there's 2. And that was weirdly more difficult for me. Now, both Moss Mothers can do stuff at the same time. They don't always. They can drop stuff on you, including their spawn, all at the same time. They can swoop and drop. And also they're flying, so I'm like, immediately kind of not as willing to like them as other bosses. Like, I got frustrated by them because it felt harder than it really needed to be. It also felt so easy that I should not be in a position of struggling in the first place. Now also, it is in a hidden area, so you can legitimately get to Act 2, get the second or even third Needle upgrade, and just go ham on them, kill them easily. Like, technically, you could save them for Act 3 and be fine. Like, they're just kind of out of the way, is what I'm saying. They're entirely optional, you don't have to fight them unless you want 100%. Relative to where you're at, yeah. Or where you would be at in Act 2 and Act 3, yeah, they got like 4 HP. You can blow on them and they just fall over. Like, place where I got to them, still during Act 1, kind of felt a lot more frustrating than it needed to be. Like, Alright. I put Phantom right next to her sister Lace. I think if I got to her sooner, again, this might have been a bit more of a wall. Like, she has very simple moveset. Triple strike, throw the needle, follow it, throw the pin, follow it, and then steam blast. Also parry. It's where you even learn parry move. It provides an alternate way to get to the Citadel if you decide to go through Sinner's Road instead of through the Blasted Steps. I like how there's like attention to detail with her commanding the pipe organ, which controls the mist as well as a lot of the pipes throughout the Citadel. I think overall she's a very well-designed boss. And I think if I got to her before Widow, the results might have been different. I might have preferred Phantom over Widow. I also might not have. Like, it is a very fun and interesting fight. Now, I also put Judge here. And I would describe Judge as if Grim turned into Nightmare King during the fight. The addition of fire, the addition of an extra attack, which has its own fire spouts. It's a very fast-paced, personal... Phantom is so cool. Look, yeah. I do love that the boss named Phantom is playing a pipe organ. I even made that joke from both the title and the thumbnail of the stream where I fought Phantom. It's just a great, well-designed boss all around. Now for Last Judge, it is probably the one that people struggled with the most during Act 1. And like part of that is the run back. Frank Sinatra definitely approves of Phantom. Now, the run back for me was annoying, and I'm kind of biased because I did get spiked by one of the small conch flies into the sandpit. That caused me to die on my way back from and lose all of my rosaries. I think that is probably the only real issue, because the run back is long, but it's not super long. It's really only 2 rooms, technically 3. And you only really have to fight one enemy. As I've seen, technically not even that. If you are able to move quick enough, you can just run past the small conch fly before it completely pops out. It is hard to do so, it requires a bit of timing, so it's more often not that you're fighting it, but you can skip it. Now, I think the other thing that makes The Last Judge do the funny conch bug, go into the sand and make the jump easy. Yeah, you can also do that. Now, that's a bit harder to set up, especially if you run into the conch fly while it's before it does the attack and gets spiked because of it. Like, otherwise, it is perfectly a fine... Like, the run back is not the worst. We know what the worst run back is. And it's not that at this. Well, the judge itself is honestly really difficult. In the same way that Nightmare King is a difficult boss. Moves fast, its attacks are followed by trails of fire that also deal damage. That can be countered by the Magma Bell to some extent. Otherwise, it's basically just powering through it, getting hits when you can, and not getting too greedy. Understanding which attacks hit and when. And the other thing is, I think people also... I can see people getting salty over the Hammer King Suicide Bombers. Keep your distance. Yeah. Keep your distance, get attacks when you can, use your tools to the best of your ability, and just run the boss down. It is mechanically designed to be a very fun and intense fight. Yeah, I'm glad that I was able to get warned about the death attack, and I'm glad I got to see other people fall for it. It's also, I will say, I'm slightly surprised, but I'm slightly not, that more bosses, both in the original and in Silksong, don't really have, like, final attacks, even if they, like, take you out with them. I'm glad at least one of them do in The Last Judge, but I'm surprised that not really any of the others do. I thought Father of the Flame did, but apparently he doesn't. Okay. Next. I think technically, you fight Cogwork Dancers before you can fight Trobio, although you can... I think if you go through the way through Phantom, you might get to Trobio first. But I think for the most part, you have to fight the Cogwork Dancers first, which makes them S. I think you've described it perfectly, Chroma. If you can get the rhythm, this fight is really easy, other than just getting greedy, and you can path your way around it if you go through Phantom or the Underworks. Yeah, that's what I was saying. But otherwise, you would have to go through the Cogwork Dancers first before you meet Trobio. I love Cogwork Dancers, which I'm glad you got to fight them first. They are a very fast boss that map out where they're gonna go first. And even then, you can still accidentally get hit by it. There are a lot of things you have to learn about, like, properly doing this fight. Things like not pogoing on the Cogwork Dancer on the bottom, otherwise you get hit into the path of the Cogwork Dancer on top. That can absolutely spike some kills out of people. But otherwise, as you say, if you can get the rhythm, this boss is easy as pie. If you can't, you will struggle a lot. And even then, if you're not able to, like, sometimes you just get spiked by the down attack, not realizing that there is a small shockwave. Sometimes you, like, hit a button too late and you get destroyed by all of the various line attacks they do. Otherwise, I imagine people love this boss to death. Well, it's on the easier side, especially for where you're at. You will definitely love it. The last thing is the flavor of that final phase. Like, the Cogwork Dancer all alone. Just slow. I read somewhere that if you don't attack the boss, it will slow down to a halt and freeze as a statue in the arena. I think that's a very cool detail. Like, apparently, it is possible to do either or. Like, I always thought that the Cogwork Dancer you don't kill goes to the left-hand side. That's apparently not true. You can kill one, and it goes to the right-hand side. But I've always only seen it go to the left-hand side. In terms of flavor, in terms of intensity of the fight, in terms of difficulty, I think it is very deserving of S. Speaking of S tier, it's Trobio. Another very fun and intense fight that has a lot more moving parts than I probably would like with the bombs. The fact that you can more cleanly deflect them away is nice. Like, I definitely see people getting hit and killed by Trovios. By the bombs, as well as the tornado attack. I think I only died once to Trovio. Was able to very cleanly do it. Like, the flair of him being like this very high energy, intense actor, putting on a grand performance. It's a very fun, makes it a very fun, intense battle. We're only in Act 2 and I've still got plenty more bosses to do. One that I won't be able to properly rate, but where do we go from here? Unraveled. This is another one that I put at C tier. You can only get it, I believe this is one that you can only get if you've gotten the wings. But it's quite a... It's a fight. It is a boss battle of all time. Like, objectively, it's fine. I don't really like the minions that it'll spawn. But I think the lore and the rest of the fight itself kinda makes up for it. You can only fight this boss in the White Ward, and it definitely fits the motif of the White Ward for sure. Just this undead mass of silk, spewing out bodies, summoning sizers, or not sizers, like spears that throw themselves into the ground to spike you and kind of soft track you as well. All throughout the fight can make this one difficult, but far from unbeatable. Like how at the beginning of the fight, that mini gauntlet that it summons, like, it kind of blurs your vision. And it's not until the boss is ready to spawn that it comes back. Like, most of the stuff that I like about this boss is mostly just its flavor. It's like, it completely fits the setting of the White Ward. It's kind of like Nosk in that sense. Or like, it's a spooky, creepy boss in a spooky, creepy location. And it completely fits in with where it is. I can think of no better place than C for it. Now, oh, Chakra's here. Chakra needs to be, like, here. Actually, yeah, let's do both Chakra and Garmon at the same time. I'd say Garmon would be B, and Chakra would be A. I think... Garmon is very basic. He can block attacks, he charges around on Saza, he can swipe in the air to avoid, like, pogos and stuff, and that's really it. He's not exceptionally fast, but he is a very gallant warrior, tries his hardest, or he's like the chaotic good version of Zote, because he's very boastful, but you actually like him. Sorry to all the Zote fans out there. I know that all three of you are devastated. Like, I just love Armand a lot, but I think Chakra is a better boss fight. Garmon is easier to get to. I think you just need to unlock that area of the high halls before the second donation, where, like, he moves into Songclave permanently. I think you only need to meet him 2 times in Coral Chambers. Like, he's an easy fight, but he's quite fun to battle against. And even he would agree. Chakra, on the other hand, is a lot more intense. Moves around a lot, throws her circlets, does a ground pound, charges at you, and then immediately fires. There is a rhythm to her fight, much like the Mantis Lords, that can get you killed if you try to go for too much aerial stuff. Like, try to follow her around. And I do kind of like that. The requirements for fighting her require you to go to Bilewater, which means you need to get the Monarch Wings. Fade out Cloak. Like, the duel is a very high octane fight. Nothing deserves to be A. Savage Beast fight number 2. Goes in the bottom. Straight to the bottom. Put the chef boss as tier, because where did I put Legoli, actually? I think I put Legoli as another D tier. Like, the boss itself is... I guess might as well do Legoli now. Like, yes, she got a dumpy. I'm not gonna lie. She has the whole bakery, but I think other than that, the fight itself is very basic. If anything, more annoying than some of the other fights that I consider basic. Like, I think you could definitely argue for C tier, like from an objective standpoint. But I think I am actually kind of rethinking my categorization. It's like the muck maggots are annoying, but you can play around them with either the Reef Circlet or Wreath of Purity, which allows you to resist the muck maggots. Granted, it's a limited amount of times, but that can be more than enough for you to clear the boss with. There are... I honestly see... Like, I think part of it being preventable is nice. Like, the boss itself is relatively basic from a move standpoint. She charges at you with her butt, sometimes twice, usually only once. He goes for a slam, which summons muck maggot piles that can prevent you from healing. She dives, spews muck maggots again. And what else is there? That's really only it. I can't really think of any other attack she does. She was just kind of a mid-tier boss that you had to get through for the pale oil. Like, arguably, I kind of got to her early because I just decided to go for the Fade On Cloak immediately. Like, before even I beat the Cogwork Dancers, I decided to go for the Fade On Cloak. It's like, maybe it would have been easier if I got through Cogwork Dancers, went through all the High Hall stuff first. Not High Halls, Whispering Vaults stuff first. And then got to Lagoli. Like, she was a bit of a tough fight, but nothing that much special. Cygnus and Gron is one that I also kind of rethought. I think initially I put it as B. I think it deserves to be C. Or they deserve to be C. From an objective standpoint, I can see other people who put them lower. Like, if you wanted to put them D or even F, I could see that. I'm not the world's biggest Forge Brothers fan. Nah, I see why. Like, I didn't struggle that much with them, because they have very clear telegraphs. The Magma Bell also helps. I guess other than those, each of them having 2 attacks, and then the minions they summon, there's not really much to them. Fighting both of them at the same time is fun. Yeah. It makes you kind of have to pick a focus and stick with it, as well as, but also keeping an eye on the other to make sure you can get through both of them. Like the flying one, Gron, is much more annoying in my opinion, because once you defeat Cygnus, the vent in the middle, the magma vent in the middle, also springs up. It's also a boss that you could fight early, which I also did, because technically you can wait until like Act 3 to fight this boss, which I think some people did. Like, not remembering that there is a simple key, or a door with a simple key lock in the Deep Docks, can make it so that you fight this boss much later than you arguably should, or can. Like, even when I fought it early, I didn't struggle that much with it compared to most of the other bosses prior and a bunch of the bosses after. I think objectively they deserve to be a C tier boss. Nothing special, but nothing horrible. Giant Flea, I'm tempted to say gets an S tier for fluffiness alone. Because I know Hornet would put it as S tier. Just because of how big and fluffy he is. I think it's like a B tier. But from an objective standpoint, moveset is very simple, very easy to dodge. He just hits hard. Like, he's cute. You can only get to him, I believe, after the Fade Down Cloak as well. Which is probably the correct choice, because I don't think... He's like Fluffy Beastfly, yeah. He is Fluffy Beastfly without summoning minions. But actually kind of fun, yeah. Like, it also shows how... Like, I one-shot Giant Flea, whereas Beastfly, it took several attempts. It just kind of shows that this moveset can be fun and interesting. It just needs to be in a boss that deserves it. And you just need to not have ads mid-fight. Nothing to distract you from just a one-on-one bout between you and the boss. Father of the Flame. Where did I put Father of the Flame? Did I put him as D tier? I didn't even write him down. Yeah, F tier. Not a very fun fight. Father of the Wisp Lanterns, basically, yeah. He is a minor inconvenience at best. Wisps are a cool item. I wish it was useful. Outside of maybe the gathering quests, if you forget to, like, kill some enemies. Yeah, it's just kind of boring. It's also much more annoying because you cannot get silk from the Wisp. It can cheese Growl even easier, true, I guess. I guess, yeah, it does make Growl easier. Because you... Okay, granted, you can't really gain silk while in the soup. But if you have constantly spawning wisps... I actually wonder, how does that work against Growl? Maybe if I ever do a second playthrough, I might try Wisp Lantern against Growl. Just to see how it works. Like, just don't get mucked, you maggot. I guess perhaps. Is it, other than the placement, there's not really that much to say about Father of the Flame. He's just not that interesting for where he is. Like, yeah, you need the double jump in order to get to him, or to even just to fight him. Well, that's more out of necessity rather than like any legitimate reason. Like, if you made him shorter, you could put him in like Act 1, and he would not feel out of place. The hardest thing about this fight is the wisps. And the fact that you don't get silk. You basically have to come in with whatever silk you have, and that's all you have to kill him. I'm not a big fan of a boss that doesn't really interact with its mechanic, but also with the game's mechanics. But also, if you could get Silk from him, the fight would be immediately 10 times easier, or at least less annoying. Because by the time you get to him, you've probably gotten a whole bunch of tools and a whole bunch of Silkbind moves that could just make this fight take 10 seconds. He's not difficult or interesting in any real way, thus I think it is fine for him to be an F tier. Maybe you could argue D. I don't really think anything special of him. Did I also not write down Broodmother? I also did not write down Broodmother. Okay, I think Broodmother is also D. You can argue F, and I think that's a valid point. It's like easy and difficult all in the same way, because Broodmother is entirely optional. Again, unless you want to get 100%. Well, it can be thrown in the dumps again, yeah. Like, you need to beat her quest if you want to clear the slab. Like, get all of the quests in Belheart. But, like, it's again, she feels like she could have been in Act 1 and nothing would change about the fight. Outside of maybe the health pool. She spawns globs that freeze you to the ground and impair your movement. She spawns minions that just kind of bump into you and I think explode. And she tackles you. And that's really it. She also does the Gruzmother bounce, going up and down on the walls, on the ceiling and floor multiple times in a row. Like, it's just Gruzmother, but with minions. And a ranged attack. There is nothing about this boss that would not be in Act 1 feel out of place. Now, Raging Conchfly. This is probably the best fight that has minions in it. And I think you know why. It's because the minions are just projectiles. Minions have clear telegraphs, don't stick around for the entire fight. Honestly, don't even really have to kill the minions, you can just dodge them the entire time. Your entire focus is on the Raging Conchfly. And I think that is what makes it the best minion fight. Like, yeah, Sister Splinter also has minions. They're also not really part of the fight as well. They can be easily one-shot. And no, that's really about it. They can be one-shot. The Silkbind moves. The minions are not the main point of the fight in Sister Splinter. Raging Conchfly, the minions are like part of the fight. Like, clear and plain. They're part of the fight. You need to face them in order to beat Raging Conchfly. But your focus isn't really taken away from the boss that much. Like, yeah, you have to look around at the environment to see when the minions are going to pop up, when they're going to dash towards you, and where the Raging Conchfly is going to dash towards you. I think compared to all of the other fights, where like minions are the main mechanic, I think this is the best one. Now, this list also has the High Guardian. didn't really write this one down. I guess same place as Scarguard. Like, it's... Excuse me. Granted, I had Chakra to help with this fight, which made it take like 5 minutes as opposed to an hour. Like, I think as you described, Chroma, it is Scarguard, but with explosions. Very similar moveset. It has the pound with the weapon. It has the jump with the weapon. It has a move where it encases its mallet in silk, pounds it to the ground, and causes an explosion. It has a move where it has a trail of explosions on the floor. Like, otherwise you can get through it. It has a lot of health, for what it's worth, but you can get through this one fairly quickly, especially with Chakra. Or, apparently, Garmon. If you are able to duel a Garmon, you are able to invite him to help you with the High Halls Gauntlet, as opposed to Chakra. I think Chakra replaces him if you do the Bilewater quest. But otherwise, you can get help with this High Halls Gauntlet, which makes it much easier, in my opinion. Otherwise, nothing really interesting. It's just a very long gauntlet. Second Sentinel... Did I put... Where did I put Second Sentinel? I didn't write Sentinel. I mean, even if I didn't, I think we know it's A tier. A very quick, very intense fight. The charge attack with the scissors is probably its move that might catch people off guard the most. That and the parry. The reserve bind that it gives is like fine, but nothing too great. It is a very interesting fight that you can do, that technically you can wait until Act 3 to do. Especially if you don't unlock him right away. If you don't unlock the Second Sentinel until Act 3, it doesn't count towards the requirement to unlock the true ending. The Second Sentinel, it's like one of those quick, I wouldn't say easy fights. I think people will inevitably have some issues fighting Second Sentinel. Otherwise, it is perfectly fine as a fight. You even get to see the thing that trained Second Sentinel, or at least what it's based on. Soon enough. Now, Lace number 2 is honestly superior to Lace number 1 in every way. And I don't just mean literally speaking, like, yeah, of course she's the second stage of Lace, of course she's gonna be better. I think the fight itself is much better. The background is, of course, quite pretty. Being at a stage of petals. The cage is the background. It's a very fast, intense 101 that requires some learning on your half as to some of the actual things she does with the jump up and down attack. There are things that you can parry which makes the fight much easier. Like, it is just a very, very fun fight. It's much harder than Lace 2 1. I think it deserves to be S tier. I'm gonna try to speed through some of these last ones. Now, technically, I fought Roll and I fought First Sinner before Grandmother Silk, but you don't have to. In all technicality, I don't even think you need, quote-unquote, the Monarch Wings in order to get to Grandmother Silk. Need with air quotes again. Grandmother Silk, I think I put as A. It's like if you fought Radiance as a mid-boss instead of as the final. You know, she's the final boss of Act 2. I think she definitely deserves to be there, but she isn't. I don't think she is harder than. Okay, I'll hold my tongue a bit on that. I don't think she's that much harder than most of the endgame bosses, or at least I didn't really take that many more attempts than any of the other endgame bosses. I think her you don't need Fade on Cloak or to get to this boss, but it helps a lot with the movement. I just think this boss is... Excuse me. Like, I think this boss is just the epitome of, I just think it's neat. I think A tier is basically all it really needs to be, and it nails it. Roll F. Like, I think he is a C tier boss forced to be an F tier. It's like, excuse me, his moveset is not bad. I think the suck attack is very interesting. Having to mash out of it in order to escape, also causing him damage. Being able to throw bombs and stuff to damage him even more. I think the road to him and the gauntlet leading up to him just make him so much more well, I won't say uninteresting, unfun than he legitimately is. I think if you did not have to do the gauntlet every time you fight Grohl, this fight would be like C tier. I still may not like him a lot, but like, he wouldn't be annoying. But I tried to separate the run back from most of the bosses. With Grohl, you really can't, because in his case, the run back is legitimately a section of the boss all on itself. Now, in terms of flavor, that's fine. I think the lore in that the areas like Sinner's Road and Hunter's March and Bilewater are openly hostile towards the Citadel and Weavers alike. That they actively set up traps and have muck maggots that sap the silk of Weavers, makes the lore of the area more interesting than the fight, than any of the fights in it. I think for that it deserves to be, like I said, Grohl is a C tier boss in F tier clothing. I don't think I can really give it any more than that. First Sinner. Yes. It's Widow, but stronger. And I like that. I like how there are switch-ups to attacks instead of bells with clear directions. It is needles or pins with clear directions. Now it can now double up on the pins. She also introduces a mechanic that I'm surprised has not been used by any other boss in the game, specifically Grandmother Silk. First Sinner can heal, like bind to heal. If we get now, Widow is explained in lore why she cannot use any of her own silk. I'm slightly surprised, and it would probably make the fight harder if Grandmother Silk could heal as well. As like the introduction to that mechanic, where like Weavers can heal. Instead, we give it to First Sinner, which is fine. I imagine in future DLCs, they add on to it. Like, make it so that we fight the other sinners and those sinners are, by extension, able to heal. I think that would make it those future fights, at least in line with First Sinner. Maybe it won't be as special unless they do something completely new and unique with this fight, those fights. Like, they'll be at least A tier in my opinion. Otherwise, First Sinner is just... It is Widow stronger. It's the second version of Widow, including the fake out attack, fake out death, which is nice. Like, only the Weavers get the fake out death. Again, if they overuse it, I think it would have lost its touch. But I love how everyone who fights First Sinner, when they get that first final blow animation, they're immediately like, nice! Wait, hold up, no, something's wrong. As if getting Widow flashbacks. Okay. Bell Eater. B tier. Apparently you can deflect the bombs that the butt spews. I guess I just got unlucky. Or like, maybe Reaper is just not really good at that, and it causes the bombs to explode on impact. Maybe it is just me being bad. I'm not sure. The fight itself, I like how it plays. The Bell Eater itself makes its own arena. There are some things I still don't understand, per se, like how long the Bell Eater is. Like how it's able to position its rear end and its face in different places all at once. Like, it doesn't really need to make sense. It just needs to be a fun, enjoyable fight, and that's what it is. It also gives us an introduction to the Beastlings, which are amazing. It's like, it deserves to be B tier on that alone. Did I give... I didn't give pin stress. I didn't write down pin stress. I think this one could arguably also be B tier. It's the same as Sentinel, at least kind of moveset wise, except she uses pins as ranged attacks, and she flies a lot, which I am just not really that big of a fan of. Like, I've said this before, I've said it a million times, I'm not really the biggest fan of most of the flying enemies. like how I do like how she zones, where like she'll pick a side, stay there, and depending on where you are, she'll change her attack pattern. But otherwise, it just feels like more tedious than it needs to be. Which is why I'll give her B tier. Tormented Trobio. I think S tier. I've gone back and forth about this, giving him A tier, because I think I still do like the first fight against Trobio more. But, like, it is Trobio, but stronger. With some additions, like the bombs have extra spikes, extra steam blasts, and the tornado now leads dust on the way. And that's really about it. The fight itself is not that much harder. He's not that much faster. Doesn't really have any new attacks. He's Trobio again, but emo. That's really it. Which, like, I like Trobio, so that's fine. But I think they could have done a bit more with it. Rawfather, I put a C. For having some of the most annoying enemies in the game as his underling, I would have thought the Crawlfather would be more annoying than he is. Which, like, he's probably the second best minion fight. Third if you count Sister Splinter, but I think just second all around. His attack pattern is not that interesting until phase 2, and the summons can get annoying, but I didn't really have too much of a problem with him. Like the small crawl jurors you can just ignore. It's the squat crawl and the long crawl that you have to be careful of, and can inevitably cause problems for you. That's really it. There's not really that much to say about Crawlfather, other than he's C tier. Zambo. F. He has 2 moves, and a lot of health, and can heal. I kinda handicapped myself by not using the extractor, because I didn't know it was there. Like, even with that, he's more of a chore than a fight. Which I guess is kind of the point. You are meant to, like, slowly whittle him down, but quickly beat him down, while also trying to dodge all of the attacks. Like Poison, Architect Crest, and Wanderer's Crest. And I heard Beast Crest is very good against him. I killed him with Architect, a whole bunch of poison, and a whole bunch of tools that deal a lot of damage. It's basically just random BS go until he dies. There's not really that much interesting about him otherwise. Same with Pale Stack. Again, more of a chore than a fight. He has 1 attack, and it's Spinning Blades that deal 2 damage, and he runs away. That's really it. Like, I only died to him once. Like, even with that, there is nothing interesting about the fight. I can see why he evaded people's eyes for so long. It's unfortunate that he has to share a room for an area with the Clover Dancers. I think Clover Dancers are A tier. I gave Clockwork S, and while I think Clover Dancers are still good, I think they were underwhelming for me. Because Clockwork Dancers have 3, really 4, but for the most part 3 phases, so you have to worry about that. Clover Dancers have 2. I wish they had all 3 phases, and maybe even an upgraded version of the 4th phase, where maybe Clover Dancers start out as fast as they are in Clockwork Dancers. In the 2nd phase, they go maybe even slightly faster. Or maybe they add extra add-ons to their attacks. Maybe like trails, small trails that also damage you along the way. Maybe they could have added that as well. Then phase 3 was the desync phase. And then phase 4, I would have loved it if, like, Clover, the Green Prince, fell in a similar way that the last Cogwork Dancer does, stayed there, and then the ghost just goes crazy. Like, it becomes current objective survive for like 30 seconds to a minute. And then it slowly winds down, and the ghost fades away, and so does the Green Prince. That would have been such a cool final phase. Unfortunately, they didn't, which I think was a missed opportunity on their part. Up on the final few, I actually think I'll do Lost Garamon. I think it's the same as Garamon, but with void attacks now. It's like fun. It's a fun fight. It is probably, like, sans Clockwork Dancers, it's probably the saddest fight in the entire game. It's like, you know Garamon by this point, and chances are you like Garamon, and now you have to put him down or to save him. I love that. That's like a flavor thing, and I hate that as Team Cherry making me... It's like if you had to kill Cloth or Quirrell yourself. It's such a cruel thing for Team Cherry to do. Like, I can't help but applaud them for it. They made this fight so very emotional. Khan is up next. I put him as C. The hardest part of this boss is the gauntlet. Just straight up. I think I've said this in the short I posted. It took 15 attempts to do the gauntlet, and like 2 to kill Crest King Khan. These attacks are very simple, very well telegraphed. The fight itself is not that difficult. It's just the mental and physical exhaustion from doing 4 gauntlets in a row in order to get to him. That you... Now, once you get to the 4th gauntlet, you can create a shortcut that basically makes it so you only have to do the final one. I think that's very nice of Team Cherry to do. And you won't hear that a lot from a lot of players. Team Cherry is very cruel when it comes to difficulty. I'm glad they added a shortcut. Because I think otherwise, if you legitimately had to do the gauntlet every single time in order to get to Crest King Khan, I think that would have made it, like, put it in the same boat as Roll, where it's like a C tier fight in of itself. The Gauntlet brings it down to like an F. Seth is fantastic. I kind of wanted to add like a jokey tier that just said Seth at the very top, but I felt like that would be a bit disrespectful. Seth's moveset is not that crazy. He has 4 attacks: a slam, a bounce, a charge, and a poke. But it's a very high, fast-paced fight that elevates it from what could be like a C or B tier and turns it into an S. It's so fun learning the patterns and slowly but surely whittling down Seth's defenses until you finally come out on top. Nihilith, on the other hand, learning about the different strats to take down Nihilith make it a lot more fun than the fight itself. It's like, I've seen people take down Nihilith with like parry and pogo spam in like 90s, not even 90 seconds, like a minute is all it takes to really take down Nihilith. Like, at your fastest. Now, I think the fight is interesting. The second phase not really having a floor for you to stand on, so you have to rely entirely upon pogoing as well as the opposite. Clinging to the wall. There are plenty of interesting things about it. I just think the fight itself is a lot more annoying and tedious than it really needs to be. And it is... Did I not put Gur? I didn't write down Gur. It's kind of the same with Gur. Although I think you can only fight him after you defeat Carmelita. He's the second molted Scar you face. Like, his moveset is not really that interesting. It's a lot of crowd control. Setting a bunch of Scar traps in order to get you, jumping up, burying it to the ground, and charging. That's really it. It's not a difficult fight, it's just more of an annoying one. Now, I think you could argue for C tier. That's perfectly fine. But other than that, I just don't really see him being any higher than C. I think some people could even argue F, but I wouldn't go that far. Carmelita is S. Without a doubt. She is probably the best fight in Act 3. Her moveset is interesting. She has a lot of attack range. I just love this fight to death. The diegetic music for singing the entire time in the background is fantastic. The final 3, and then I didn't get this one because it's a Steel Soul exclusive. I haven't bought this one. I probably won't. That is fine by me. Watchers. So, Watcher. I think the only thing saving this from D tier is... I'm not even sure what really saves this from D tier. I think it's just the fact that he personally fights you. Like, his moveset is very simple. You saw it in the Coral Tower during the Con Gauntlet. He doesn't really do a lot. He's just tanky and he hits hard. That's all you really need. That's really about it. Just a solid D tier. Or C tier. Boltworm is out. You can get to him in Act 2, and I think that makes the fight harder than it should be. But ideally, you'd get to this in Act 3. When you go for the Coral Tower, you get to this fight, and like, there's not really anything to it. Here's on the ceiling, spams, lightning. I'm glad it's as short as it is. I think I only took one attempt to do it. Like, I think if it was any tank here, it would absolutely be miserable, especially for this late in the game. Finally, Lost Lace. This one might be the most controversial one, because I think Lost Lace is like only an A tier compared to the second run of Lace. There are new things you have to learn about Lost Lace compared to Lace. Attacks you need to avoid in different ways. Like, I don't really see anything. I still just think that Lace Round 2 is better. Not just because it is ever so slightly easier comparatively, but just in the tempo and pace of the fight, I think not having all of the void attacks makes it much better of a boss compared to Lost Lace. I didn't fight the Steel Soul boss exclusive. It's like, I probably won't. But that is about it for me. That's really all I wanted to do today. Just go over all the bosses I liked, all the bosses that I didn't like as much. That took a lot longer than I thought it would. And I didn't even really explain myself that well, I realized. I'm not that good at explaining my positions sometimes. But I think generally, this is like a fairly decent metric for like the average Silksong player's ranking of bosses. All of the Mantis Lord style bosses that personally fight you towards the top, all of the Gorb style bosses towards the bottom. And Savage Beastfly is just the worst. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let us end off with that. Tomorrow? Not sure how I'm gonna do tomorrow. I'll probably do a return to form with Xenoblade tomorrow, if possible. But I'll need to figure it out. I need to get going, so I will leave that there. Thank you, everyone who decided to drop by. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care.